Hey everyone, and welcome to the Magical Miracle Network. My name is Ruth Perkinson, and we are broadcasting and recording live from Richmond, Virginia. And we have a super special guest with us today. Her name is Colleen Coles, and she is actually in Charlottesville, Virginia today, doing this chit chat with me about her and her journey. So, Colleen, just say hi to everybody with your voice.
Hi. Hi, everybody.
What a great voice you have. Oh, wow. Colleen, well, I just met you last summer and we've gotten to know each other a little bit. And I wanted to bring you on to this network because you have got some amazing talents, gifts, and abilities. And you also have been on quite the journey, haven't you?
Mm-hmm.
Been on quite the journey. Can you just kind of introduce yourself a little bit? Tell us a little bit about you, your journey, and what you've been doing to bring yourself to this beautiful spiritual gift that you have.
Yes. So yes, I'm Colleen, and I have been on this journey to help really become my most authentic self and feel safe being my authentic self and empowered and confident doing that. So I started my kind of career journey as the daughter of like two lawyers, very kind of normally lifestyle, not very spiritually inclined, becoming an elementary ed teacher, did that for a couple years, didn't feel really fulfilled. So I was like, okay, what if I just did what made me happy? What if I just explored having fun and like letting myself do that? And so I decided to kind of like throw in the towel of teaching, not have it mean so much of whether I got to the end result or not. Like just I started to do service work and started to just do fun stuff. And through that found more of a spiritual path. And one thing led to the next where I became a life coach. And I started in 2018 specifically to really hone in on my heart's desire, my lean towards spirituality, and almost like, what gifts do I have? Like, what connection do I have? What authority do I have in spirituality? And in 2018, I really felt called to go to Brazil to see a healer named John of God. Gabby Bernstein, one of my first mentors, had gone. Oprah, Wayne Dyer, like a lot of
all the big ones, right? All the
those
big
big
people,
ones.
right?
Yeah, and they're all like, you gotta go. And so in 2018, I really desired to go, and I made it happen. And while I was there, I was studying the Course of Miracles just on my own, and did a lot of healing on myself. And through that journey, it was an amazing time. That year, I had discovered through just trial and error, my own spiritual gifts of really being able to sense in my body and see in my vision the energetic blocks in another. And
Yes.
yeah, and then through leading this visualization of what I call connecting to the light, actually then seeing this movie in my head and sensing the blocks, I see what needs to happen to let those blocks go. And
Wow.
yeah, and that's that's when my work really started to take off, and I became full-time, because it was like the clients I was working with, they were like, I've done so much work on myself, I've gone to so many counselors, but something doesn't feel like it's shifting.
Yes.
And we'd have like a 90-minute session with this type of work, and they're like, oh my God, that was like 10 years of therapy in 90 minutes.
There you
And
go. Well, oh my
yeah,
God. Well, do you charge like $10 million an hour? I mean, what's going on there?
right? I have done the math. I was like, Colleen, it's okay, you charge what you want to charge, because 10 years times X amount per set. Like,
Right, right, right.
yeah. And that same year too, I was really discovering another side of myself, which was my sexuality and my own personal love journey. Because I was raised Catholic, I became really Catholic in high school, decided to wait to have sex before marriage, just wanted that like significance and that feeling of like worth and all those things. And I met my husband when I was 23, and we had sex, but it never turned on, like, for me. And I kept feeling really just stuck and not in, like, it just wasn't clicking. And so finally, after we got married in 2016, at the beginning of 2017, I was like, look, Mike, I didn't wait just to wait longer. Like, we need to figure this out. And so
we got to get that root chakra going, right?
yeah, it was blocked for both of us. And so I was like, hey, I found this program around Tantra. It's with this woman, Psalm Isadora. Mind Valley was where I started this whole journey. But Psalm Isadora, had this program on Tantra. And so that next year, 2017, I studied Tantra, but I still noticed that even knowing it all up here, I was still avoiding doing any of it.
Oh,
and
right.
Comfortable.
Oh, Colleen. Wow. So, okay. So just so for clarification, so you kind of knew it intellectually,
right,
but you hadn't really embodied it. So,
totally.
Wow, you hit on so much of that journey there. That's quite, it's so, and we're going to have you back on. So we don't have to fit it all in 20 minutes, but wow. So you had it all there, and then you started to practice the Tantra, right? And then that kind of made it more of like an embodiment.
Yes. And the following year, so in 2018, the same year I went to see John of God, I studied another skill set where it's basically how to manifest your dream life or your purpose through sexual energy, through orgasmic energy. And so I started to practice that because my heart, Ruth, is like around being authentically me and living out my purpose. Like that is my soul's desire, calling. And so when it coupled the sexual energy with like, oh, you can use that to live your purpose, you can live that to manifest what you desire and to connect with God, I was like, I'm in. And so I started to practice that actual embodiment of that. And in 2018, and so when
we just had a cameo, somebody just walked right by.
Yeah, in red too, I saw. It's like root chakra galore.
That's funny.
Yeah, so basically when I was at Brazil, I had a really transformational experience of being in Rio, and like my whole vision board, I had been saying that whole year, like I said this vision every day, it was literally coming to life and I didn't even notice it. But like the vision I had was literally in Rio while I was on a surfboard. And so many things happened where everything was so aligned and so like grace filled. And I met this lifeguard there who we had actually like had this really cool, graceful connection around. I was in the right place at the right time surfing, and I saw that somebody was having a hard time swimming. The lifeguards came right then, and we basically saved his life. And if he told me, the lifeguard told me, if he hadn't seen my blonde hair, he probably wouldn't have seen that person. So
wow.
It was profound.
So this is all happening. So I'm going to pause for a second. So just to clarify, so you're in Rio, and you're surfing, and you're having this is back in 2018. This is on your journey to John of God, right? And this
after John of God.
Right after John of God. And I want to hit on that a little bit too, as we have the cameo guy. I keep going back and forth, but I want to hit more on that too as well. So yeah, keep going.
Yeah. So basically it was like, yeah, there was this new spark in me that I wasn't expecting, which was like a true sense of sexuality, energy moving. And I was like, oh my God. And all these old judgments, like this isn't allowed, this isn't appropriate, this isn't okay, like started coming up. But I think something about my journey thus far, I was like, well, what if it could be okay? And like, what if I took judgment off? And what if there were no judgment and I just listened to like my desire, like, what would that be? And was like, I want to go surfing with this lifeguard. Like I want, like it was kind of simple. And so I'm a really big person on honesty and integrity. And so that night I called my husband. I was like, look, Rio is a wild roller coaster over here. Like there's this girl who was like, I want to kiss you. Like she just started to come up to me, like the sexual energy all over the place, in the plants, in the ocean, like everywhere. It was just big. And so I was like, Mike, what are our parameters? Because I do want to explore, but I don't want to, cross a boundary. And so we decided on those boundaries, and I was like, okay. And so the next day I did go surfing with this lifeguard. He did start to get into like wanting to do more with me. And I said, look, like, this is what I can't do. Like, I can't have sex with you. I can't kiss you. However, I can practice Tantra with you if you want to play with exploring energetic exchange. Like, I know Tantra, I'd love to do that. And he was like, cool. And so it was a full moon. We were in his, like the lifeguard dock or whatever, like the big tower. And
Right.
it was just this most amazing, beautiful experience. I felt so like in my power, in my authority, if you will, my authenticity, and also receiving. And it was like really mind blowing. And at the end of it all, it was like I took a beat, I looked out over the ocean, the moon was shining. It was like as if God was everywhere. God
Yes,
was
ma'am.
everywhere. And it was like, there's no judgment. There was no judgment at all. And it was like just this amazing experience of realizing, one, I had been living in black and white and I didn't even know it. And two, like God is Technicolor.
It's like Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz, right?
Yeah, right.
Like it's all black and white, and then she steps into the Emerald Kingdom, and it's all Technicolor.
Right.
A lot of people, like in AA programs, talk about that. When I'm almost 15 years sober, and that's what happened to me. Once I quit drinking, it was like everything became very Technicolor.
Wow.
And it was my whole life opened up to a whole new way of being. So I kind of get that.
Yeah. And maybe by
saying.
like me or anybody who like, because that's what I do really now. It's weird. It's interesting because like God keeps bringing me to help either heal childhood trauma in a spiritual way, but it typically can include sexual trauma. It's like sexual childhood trauma.
Yeah.
And or teaching the tools and the mindset of how to use sexual energy as a spiritual God force energy within to manifest your dream life with rocket power. It's so funny you say that, Ruth. I feel like I was sober. Or maybe I was drunk on the feeling of being a good girl. Like it was almost like, and I think about the women I've helped who like we can get really clammed up.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And almost by like doing the reverse and opening to our own inner power versus maybe a substance outside of us, it's like, whoa, life just got in Technicolor. And I think in joy, in pleasure, in like in an authentic, I'm real sense. So
and also staying in your sovereignty, staying an autonomous being, right? Being autonomous, yet experiencing the bliss energies that you're talking about. I want to shift a little bit because I want to talk about what you offer. But before we go there, tell me a little bit about John of God. How was that?
It was awesome. It was awesome. What's really, really, really interesting about this is that I was having kind of a spiritual awakening that summer through my sexuality and through owning my authentic desires and through letting those come out. That energy has a lot of baggage, like sexual energy, you know, it's heavy. It can be exciting, but it can be really triggering for people. And I gotcha. So what was so interesting was while I was there, Ruth, it was so awesome. It was so simple and calm, but I had really amazing radical transformations while I was there. And the people I met were like lifelong, oh my God, these are my people. Like they get it. They understand me. People that help me know myself so well and turn up my intuitive gifts and like own them. Such huge transfer, keeping like just walking through fear and just doing things. Like it was so powerful. And I really had a calling that year to go. And I remember there was this moment where I really was freaking out about the money to go because my business wasn't where I wanted it to be. And I was like, I had this thought late at night, music was on, and I was just like, maybe I shouldn't go. Like maybe it's not really necessary. And this song came on from Jack Johnson, and he said, don't let your dreams be dreams. And it was this like moment of like, I gotta do this. So did it. Cut to October of that year. So I had gotten back. I was there in June. In October, a woman came out onto like the Daily Show or something and was saying that she had had not good sexual encounters at John of God, and that him as like a channeler, I guess, like a human, had manipulated her.
Oh God.
I know. And so all like that was coming out. It was like all these gurus in yoga, like a Kundalini yoga founder, Bikram yoga, like we're coming out. And I hate to share that, but I think it's important because one, it was like the spiritual side of things that was beyond this human. And that was really profound, really true.
Okay.
But the thing that was interesting was also too,
well, I just want to, can I add something right there? Just real quick. I mean, I'm grateful that you're bringing that up because we want to always be careful about, when we go to see, really, we are our own gurus, right? we are our own autonomous beings, and
Mhm.
to not like let give our power away
Totally.
any being really. And I
Yeah.
think it's probably something that you work on with people, right? Not giving
Oh,
people.
100%. Because if we give our power to anything outside of us, like that's the answer, we're screwed. We are
Yeah.
screwed for suffering. Like because then what happens if it goes away? Our self-worth goes away. Like it's a dangerous slope, but it doesn't mean we can't feel pleasure. So like this guy, I think when people gave their power and their autonomy to him of like he is the savior, he
Right.
human side kind of was able to take advantage or chose to take advantage of that. Like
Okay.
he was at
Okay.
all.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean that like sexual energy is bad. And I
Right.
think or spiritual channeling is bad. And I
Right.
think those are the nuances we need to navigate, because if we say, well, therefore I'm not going to ever trust spirituality, we just cut ourselves off from a lot. And
Yeah.
similarly, like if anybody listening has had like sexual trauma, it happens a lot. It happens a lot. It's unreal, especially for
Oh
children.
yeah,
It
I
happens.
agree with you. I agree with
So,
you.
but then therefore, like we have an innate desire to have great sexual experiences. And so just because that's happened or we've had bad experiences with our sexual energy or it's been really scary before, doesn't mean we can't find a way to make it work and make it beautiful. And I
Right.
think there is a deep desire to be able to use and experience our own sexual power in a
Right.
positive way. So we want to heal that
Right.
tension.
Right.
That's why
And
that
just,
tension exists.
and just I'm going to be fully in my throat chakra is completely open with you. I just want to let everyone know that I got into a second location one time, and it was a trauma. Now it got weird. I was able to get away,
Mm,
but that's just even the intention
mm,
of that sexual trauma, right? That intention of that being very drunk being trying to crossing that boundary with me. Happened a long time ago. I was in college, and but still, I can still remember that to this day. I basically had to run out of my where I was living at the time and really just run away. I mean, I was in my bare feet and I was just had to run away. I just want to bring that up because I think there's so many of us, whether you're male or female or whatever your LGBTQIA, whatever the label is now, we all have had some form of that, right?
yeah.
It's in some way. I mean, is that your
Totally.
perspective?
Absolutely, because there's so much um like nuance on trauma itself. So trauma is any experience where we had to abandon ourselves, or if a experience was too fast, too much, too soon.
Right.
So, and also then what wasn't explained. So it's trauma isn't the action that happened, it's what didn't happen. It's the
Yeah.
feeling of not being seen. It's the feeling of
Right.
not counting and being abandoned. And so I mean, I've had pretty good sexual experiences, I guess, but even the times in college when like I had to, like lock it up or I got scared or a guy
Yeah.
called me like a dead fish.
Oh
Like,
God. E.
like those are miniature traumas. And
Yeah.
you know what? It's what lives in the body. That's what
Right.
lives in the body. So I think having a lot of compassion for ourselves, like that would be considered sexual trauma, even if
Right.
it's a smaller event than
Right.
say a rape or something.
Right.
However,
Right.
we have all had something. And so, yeah,
Yes,
getting it
yes.
out.
Well said. Well said. I mean, you're such a great speaker, Colleen. And what you're bringing, and you're bringing it through in such a beautiful, organic way. And I really appreciate that. And you are really helping. It feels like you're helping so many. Let's stop right there and just talk about your practice. Talk about as we have our cameo. Let's talk about your practice. You
Sure.
deal with spiritual healing from childhood sexual trauma.
Yeah.
You do a lot of work with authenticity, codependency, boundaries. I
Mm.
also want you to let people know how to get a hold of you through your website.
Yeah.
So, yeah, go ahead and just give me the couple of things that you do.
Yeah. So basically, the result that I'm obsessed with and feel like I keep living and embodying is being authentically myself. And I
Right.
think when we can be authentically us, we automatically get clarity on what we're here to do and
Yeah.
how to make a difference. And when it's like when we can do that, we're really on track to help in the way we're meant to help, because we're using our gifts and we're helping in our joy. So to me, that's always the North Star, is like, how can we be authentically ourselves and free and on purpose and enjoy? Now, what I have seen are the steps in order to get that to that or live that are these pillars of like, one, looking at where are we not, like, what is our authenticity? Where are we not speaking our truth? Where are we not living our truth? And where are we not owning our desires? So a process of like uncovering kind of our purpose in that way. But the thing that can block us, I think the biggest block that we have towards authentically living and then feeling fulfilled in our lives is codependency, which is basically people pleasing. It's basically saying yes when you mean no so that others will love you. Right. And that to me is huge, because when we say yes to something we know isn't really what we want, we spend our precious time getting off track.
Hey, can you, right there, there's a great teaching right there. Can you just provide just organically an example of that, like for, say, married couples or even unmarried couples or partners, whether you're gay, straight, whatever?
Sure.
Can you provide just like a simple example that people can really grok?
Sure. So say you have, you had a plan to go to an event. Say it was like apple picking. Okay. So you made an agreement, a commitment. Say it's a friend, or say it's a husband, or say it's whatever that let's even say it's a husband. Okay. And you guys had planned to go apple picking as like a Saturday afternoon date. And you know what, as the time is moving, you're like inside, you're like, I really don't want to do this. But you're like then thinking, well, I have to because I told him I would.
Right.
So it's like, like, all right, well, let me just go, or maybe too, if you got really honest, when your husband recommended or said like, hey, do you want to go apple picking? Inside, you would be like, no. But maybe you said yes because you're like, oh, I want my husband to feel good. I want to be connected. Like we do that so quickly and so unconsciously because we care about people and we want them deeper. We don't feel, we're empathic, like, so, and we're scared, right? Of like, what would happen if we said no, right?
Right.
So say where it's like, okay, I'm going to meet him at 2 at the apple picking, and you go and he's there. And like, maybe he notices something's not up and you have the bravery to say, you know what, if I'm being really honest, I didn't really want to go. He might say, it's so funny you say that because I didn't really want to go either.
Right.
Yet we're both here like, okay, cool, we got to that clarity, but then that brings out the space to say, well, what do we really want to do? And now we can authentically connect versus having, masks or the people pleasing stuff. I mean, honestly, it's, if we ever sense our energy when we people please, it is like, it drains real quick, really quick,
People pleasing energy just really just drains us. Wow. That is really a great takeaway from this interview today, is to get that really great example of just being clear with your partner, communicative. And that I think what I'm hearing, and you correct me, is that person stays in their autonomy, their truth, right? And then this other person stays in their autonomy and their truth. And you kind of meet in the middle, at like kind of in Buddha's middle way, and then have that authentic experience, whatever that might be. It could be apple. It could be a restaurant. It could be talking to that guy walking behind you, whatever it might be.
And even trusting yourself to know that that person will be okay if you truly decided to do what you wanted to do and it wasn't what they wanted. Like trusting that they'll be okay. So for example, sometimes the reason this can get tricky too is in relationships where, maybe your partner gets triggered easily, and you're the one in the house with that. Like this can happen with men and women. And I worked with a couple where I think sometimes people pleasing can feel like it's more on the woman, and that can be true, but men do it too, but they might just get angry and versus like anxious about it. But, this one couple I was working with to help them communicate better and have trust, I knew about the woman's issues and she wanted him to open up. And yet the man, when I really got there with him of like safety and him opening up, he's like, you know what? My partner wants me to watch a movie at night and I say yes. But really, all I want to do, so we're back to desire, and we're back to authenticity and trust in ourselves. It's all I really want to do is walk with my weighted vest in the woods and go for a walk. And so, but he's like, but I say yes to the movie because I don't want her to get upset or think I don't love her and her get mad at me. And I don't want to do that. So I
Is
cave
that
or I
like walking on eggshells, right?
Walking on eggshells. Yes. That's a really great way to know, like, oh shoot, I'm being codependent, so that you can switch out of it. And what happens when we don't actually do what we really want is it builds resentment. That turns to anger. And then that turns to, breakage, like, because now it's her fault that I'm not doing it. That's we always have our own choice. It's when we have the power to step into that, everything else gets better.
Wow. And it's you're such a great speaker. I just want to say that we want to also, I kind of want to sort of transition into a little bit into A Course in Miracles a little bit, because I know you're a student of that. And that there's one part of A Course in Miracles that I think is really important, is that people are really good at counting up grievances, right? We count up grievances with people and we forget to count up the kindnesses, right? And so that's one thing that I think that the Course brings out, is to really come from that kind place, that authentic place, that loving place. And then if you have a grievance, to let it come up, let it be cleared with both people involved, through non-judgment, through forgiveness, through reparation, that kind of thing. And it sounds to me like you are just an expert on doing those kinds of things with people. And so how can people find you? Do you have a website or?
Yeah, I do. So I have a website, ColleenColes.com. It's just my name, ColleenColes.com. And I also want to highlight, I have a blog and it's linked in my website. So website's the place to go. Same with my Instagram or Facebook. It's all right there. But I have a blog on Substack where it's kind of a writer's platform, and I write articles, I record podcasts, and I make movie trainings. So it's just a very calm platform. Versus like the loudness of others. So I like it a lot. And I write a lot, and I like to speak and teach. Like, I'm a teacher at heart.
Definitely. So you started off in elementary school education, right?
Yeah,
wow.
I did.
Ones, right? The little ones.
Yeah. And that came in handy because I'm a mom now, but I really like talking about and teaching what I like to talk about and teach.
You're extraordinary. And is it okay to ask you how old you are? You look like you're 30. How old are you, Colleen?
I'm 34.
34. Well, you look great. And I'm so grateful that you have, it sounds to me like in this lifetime, you really have been on a spiritual journey. And that takes a lot. I'll just say it up front. I'm speaking my truth. It takes a lot of bravery and courage to step into your authentic self and to speak from, all the chakras that are lined up together, whether it be the root chakra all the way up to that 8th chakra and beyond. It sounds like you really have done the investigation. You've done the learning. You've created a huge arsenal of information for people to tap into. And so I think that they will definitely be able to find you through this network that we are creating together as a team. Because just so you guys know, this is the Magical Miracle Network. We are an internet free trade school. So Colleen's coming on to share her talents, gifts, and abilities with all of you. You guys find her if that's the inspiration, and then you guys can make a connection. And that's really the point of this whole thing, right? Is to connect, have a true connection. Because what I'm seeing already in this network, we're very brand new. It's only been happening since May. Is I've seen so many different connections already with so many different people. And so we're trying to bring it all together as a hub. And so that when you come on, you bring in a great teaching like you did today, and continue to come on, because you've already taught me so much just in this interview we've been doing. And I want you to get on all the shows you need to get on out there, get on all the podcasts you need to get on. So everybody share this information about Colleen if you feel inspired to please do that, because she's got, like I said already, an arsenal of information. You are our in-house expert on spiritual trauma with children, right? Or childhood.
So spiritual healing of childhood trauma. Okay. So for a while I was like, I had some like imposter syndrome, because I'm like, I'm not a counselor and I'm not, a therapist, like what, but my clients, they kept saying like, you're not. And that's great because we're
You don't
looking
need the
at something
label.
different.
We're getting away from labels, right? We're getting away.
And even like therapists, like there's so many great therapists, and sometimes there's just different ways of healing that people are seeking or needing. And like,
I agree.
I don't know. So when people are ready to see me, it's when they've done a lot of work on themselves. They might know what happened, but they don't know how to shift it. I help them shift it, and it's quicker and usually a lot lighter and not a lot of talky because it's a spiritual shifting. And it's like we just go right to the root, and spirit or the light like comes in, and I'm just a channel for that. But with
absolutely
understanding of like the body and trauma. And so yeah, it's a niche thing, but
well, you are again, I appreciate you. We're all channeling spirit. Our true self is coming through. We are, in the 3D world, but we're up through the 4D to the 5D, really aware that we're waking up from the dream of separation, this what I call the terrible, awful dream of separation, into the dream of unity and innocence and love. And when we understand that we're all coming from unity and innocence and love and clarity, and trying to heal, these fragments, these fractals in our hearts and minds, then it really does become this great reparation, that we're the great atonement, really, of our hearts and minds. And I think that you are a big part of that for your regional clients. You've got clients all over, right? Here in Virginia. Tell us about your clients. Yeah.
Sure. So I do work online, like through Zoom. So it's international. I've had people from Finland and Alaska, like all over, and also intensives or sessions in person in Richmond, Virginia too. Along with like, if somebody wanted me to come to them, I'm available for that. In fact, that's why I'm in Charlottesville right now, because somebody wanted to be on their property with their horses as we did some healing, and it was like, cool. So I do in person. It's really powerful in person. It's equally as effective online. So and my offerings are just tailored towards the person. I have my core ways of working with people, and then I kind of channel and tune into what that person needs. But it could be like, a 4-month program, or it could be an intensive, or a program that's like with a little bit of coaching here and there too.
Right. Well, that's so well said. And I think we'll put your website in the description box so that people can find you.
Yeah.
And can we have you come back on in October? Can I get an agreement in October?
Sure.
We'll come back maybe in October, maybe once a month, you can come on and share an example of some healing. So, because we want to make this free for beings who can't afford.
Sure.
That's, try to make this a place where people can come and go, okay, that was a great example. I'm going to re-listen to that. Or you even do a teaching the next time, and I'll kind of step back and let you do a teaching here on the Magical Miracle Network, which is a free trade school. I'll say it again. And we are becoming this beautiful hub and this resource for so many people. And we are, again, you guys, we're recording live from Richmond, Virginia. Colleen Coles is there in Charlottesville, Virginia. And she's got a great network all over the world that she's working with. And we just really appreciate you coming on and taking the time out of your busy day to be with us today. Are there any final words or any words of wisdom that you want to share with us today, Colleen, that might be helpful? Anything from the Course in Miracles, or anything from your heart? Just speak from your heart. Anything that you want to say?
Yes. What I'd love to share is just like, you can heal. Like you can be different, have a different experience of life than you've had.
Period. Yes. Well, so well said. And I think that's a great note to end on, that everyone here on Earth is dealing with what I call PTSD. We have all had some form of trauma, and any shape or form that it comes in, and that we all have the ability to heal. And we're healing our hearts, we're healing our beautiful minds, and we're healing our bodies as well, right? Our temples that we are in. So, Colleen, God bless you. Thank you. I'm going to take off my glasses. So everybody has to be, I'm getting a chill just doing this, talking to you. I'm going to take off my glasses. Everybody be super patient, because I'm visually challenged. I'm visually impaired. And I'm trying to find the stop button here. So, Colleen, say goodbye to everybody.
Bye.